1 year ago, the World Socialist website held its annual commemoration of May Day during its most successful period in its 19-year history. Over the previous year, our site had received nearly 10 million visits. The month before, over 900,000 individual users visited the WSWS, reflecting a 25% increase in just 4 months. Within a matter of days, we would go on to publish our first video that received over 1 million views. The reports to that year's May Day celebration reflected this growth. Without succumbing to immodesty, we noted, the International Committee and its sections have every right in the centennial year of the Russian Revolution to look to the future with confidence. The influence of the World Socialist website, the voice of the International Committee, is growing rapidly. This sober assessment of the mounting influence of the WSWS, reflecting the growth of socialist sentiment within the working class, was mirrored in the proverbial smoke-filled rooms in which the leading representatives of the financial oligarchy conduct their deliberations. Alarmed by the growth of socialist sentiment, the ruling class determined to take action. Facing a restive working class, hostile to war and social inequality, and increasingly propelled into action after a decade of wage cuts and social austerity, the strategists of the ruling class determined that their only hope in stemming the tide of social opposition was to go after what every police regime in history believed was its source: critical news outlets. The source of information rebellions are outlets distributing bogus stories, said one prominent advocate of this view. Silence the guns, and the barrage will end. These individuals, in other words, adopted views shared by every ruling class in history that had been overthrown by revolution, that popular social grievances can be resolved with police batons. As we celebrated May Day, we did not know that less than a week before, Google had taken the first step in what would subsequently lead to a historic transformation of the major American technology companies. From the disseminators of information, they would be transformed into its censors. That giant step was announced in a discreetly worded blog post claiming Google had taken measures to improve the search system in order to help people find what they were looking for. These measures would be taken, as the company subsequently told the reporter, in such a way as not to reflect political bias. Over the next year, all of these pretensions fell away. Rather than seeking to help people find what they were looking for, Google's aim was the literal opposite. As Congressman Adam Schiff said in a congressional hearing, Google has the societal obligation to change the fact that what ends up percolating to the top of our feeds tends to be things we were looking for. And this is exactly what Google did. The company carried out a far-reaching revision of the way it evaluated every one of its millions of search terms, severing connections between popular topics such as inequality, war, democratic rights, and socialism, and leading left-wing websites. In both the empirical and political sense, the main target of this censorship was the World Socialist website. Within 3 months of Google's announcement, every single one of the WSWS's top 45 search terms no longer linked users to the site. As a result, the World Socialist website's search traffic from Google fell by more than 3/4, far more than any of the numerous other left-wing, anti-war, and progressive websites affected by the company's measures. The targeting of the World Socialist website was a recognition, in the negative, of the fact that it represents the most coherent expression of the social interests of the working class and the political strategy of proletarian revolution, posing an existential threat to the capitalist class. And, true to its historic mission, the World Socialist website, alone among all the sites that had been gagged, launched a struggle against this censorship. On August 25th, the World Socialist website published an open letter declaring that Google is manipulating its internet searches to restrict public awareness of and access to socialist, anti-war, and left-wing websites, adding that censorship on this scale is political blacklisting. We exposed the alliance of the technology monopolies with the U.S. military and intelligence apparatus, revealing that Google and Facebook are acting as the agents of the state in its effort to destroy the First Amendment. But rather than being the exception, Google has set the pattern for Facebook, Twitter, and other technology companies. In announcing its plans to censor fake news, Facebook made clear that it was proceeding exactly as the World Socialist website had alleged. Since stifling the public discourse is a sensitive issue, the company said, it would significantly reduce the distribution of targeted content by showing it lower in the news feed without notifying users they were being censored. In other words, every word of the World Socialist website's open letter had been confirmed. The turn to censorship, today as ever, is an act of fear and desperation, a recognition that the ruling elite not only has nothing to offer society, but sees itself surrounded and besieged by the great mass of the population. But censorship is an effort to bar the stable doors after the horse has bolted. No bankrupt social order has ever succeeded in preserving itself through police means. In fact, there has never been so wide an audience for revolutionary socialist politics. Over the past quarter century, the ranks of the international working class have swelled with the entry of fresh battalions from India, China, Latin America, and the Middle East. Like never before in human history, the masses are interconnected not only by the productive process, but by the World Wide Web, which celebrated its 29th anniversary this year under conditions when more than half the population is connected to the internet, and through it, the great achievements of human culture, at the forefront of which stands the scientific socialist tradition, brought into the world 200 years ago with the birth of Karl Marx. The World Socialist website, the first genuinely international newspaper in the history of the socialist movement, now in its 20th year of continuous publication, is itself the expression of both the growing objective strength of the international working class and its interconnectedness. We hold no illusions. The ruling elite will pay any price, including attempting to bring down the vast edifice of international communications that underpins the world economy in an effort to stifle the political awakening of the masses. But let them do their worst. We will do our best. 80 years ago, in announcing the formation of the Fourth International amid the massacre of hundreds of thousands of Bolsheviks by Stalin's murderers, Leon Trotsky declared, "The hangmen think in their obtuseness and cynicism that it is possible to frighten us. They err. Under blows we will become stronger. The bestial politics of Stalin are only the politics of despair. It is possible to kill individual soldiers of our army, but not to frighten them. Friends, we repeat again in this day of celebration, it is not possible to frighten us." Likewise today, we declare, it is not possible to censor us. Despite the most draconian censorship regime in the history of the internet, the readership of the World Socialist website is again growing as workers and youth enter into struggle. The long-awaited upsurge of the working class has already begun. From rail workers in France, to airline workers in Germany, to the teachers of America and the masses of North Africa, a wave of working-class militancy is sweeping the globe. What the forces of reaction fear most is exactly what is on the agenda: the intersection of this upsurge of the masses with this conscious struggle for Marxism. As Marx, to the bicentenary of whose birth we dedicate this celebration, proclaimed, "Theory becomes a material force when it grips the masses." Comrades, it is with confidence that the proud legacy of Karl Marx will grip the masses, that the International Committee embarks upon the 20th year of the publication of the World Socialist website, and with it, to a new era of socialist revolution.